Hi, this is Sepi. In this video, I'm going to show you how to paint birch trees in winter. I started my painting by wetting the sky and the trees first, and I put my ultramarine blue on top of the paper. I tried not to go over the trunks, but not worried about having some blue bleeding onto the trunks. I added some purple and cerulean blue to the snow, and then I dried the first layer and wetted my tree trunks and put my dark colors on both sides of the trunks. The trunk for birch trees are light in value. For mixing those colors, I use some purple. I added a touch of ultramarine blue and brown, burnt umber, but all of these colors that I mixed together were very light intensity. I added some water to make them light, and then for the bottom part of my big tree in the front scene, I added some raw sienna, also burnt sienna, to my mixture, and I let it bleed into my wet tree trunk. So I wetted the trunk first, and then I added my pigments of colors on the darker side of my tree trunk. Then I moved to the far scene or middle scene trees, and I started by wetting some of these tree trunks by adding some pink as the first layer, like permanent rose, yellow as the first layer, like this one that I'm working on right now, and then I added darker values like burnt umber and ultramarine blue to the darker side, because these tree trunks are not birch trees. They don't belong to birches. Some of them are brown in color. And then I used my round brush number 2 to add twigs and branches. You also can use your rigger brushes to add your far scene branches. Another thing which gives dimension to this work are the shadows. And for doing so, I drew my shadows with pencil first, and then I pick the right color by mixing it on a practice piece of paper. I use ultramarine blue and purple and a touch of cerulean blue to my mixture to create my shadows. For the shadows, I didn't use a lot of pigment or a lot of water. So my brush has enough amount of pigment or paint on it and a good amount of water, but not too much. I don't want to get blossoms on my work, and I also don't want my shadow colors to be too dark and have crisp edges. This is why you have to keep a right balance to create more realistic look to your shadows. Working on the bottom part of my front scene tree, I added some raw sienna as the base color, and then I started drawing with my number 2 brush using blue and burnt umber, ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and then I added these patterns to my tree trunk here and there. I dried this layer, and then I started adding some glazes of ultramarine blue to the darker side of my front scene tree. And then I went over my trunks again and added more layers, more values. I worked on the shadows, more shadows of one tree trunk on the other trunk, as you can see in the middle ground trees on the right side. And I also darkened the bottom of my trunks to show that they are planted inside the snow, and I added some more accents of dark colors on the trunks. I also added some far scene tree trunks by working wet on dry using light value brown, which for the brown I used burnt umber. And here I'm darkening the bottom of the trunks and adding some more dark accents to my front scene tree trunks. I worked around my far seen trees by using more of the ultramarine blue for the sky. So it was more like negative painting around those trunks and helped to showing them better and create more depth to my sense of depth to my work. Adding some more details to the far seen trees here. And the work is done. At the end, I used ink pen a little bit and added some contour drawings, details to some of the trunks, especially to trunks in the front scene. Thank you for watching.